In Trauma City, Baby was doing the wild thing in the middle of the road. Miles away, the empty valise sat on the state line. She distrusted song titles and cliches, and this place was full of them. She looked toward the horizon and into the future. Her universe shuddered to a standstill. She screamed to focus her terror as she searched the road looking for Baby. Looking for footprints or broken twigs pointing to the truth in the spiraling dust. She realized there was no way out of this town. Not without Baby. In Trauma City, Baby was fingering a mystery with one hand and Wild Thing with his tongue. Baby believed his alibi. Besides, there were no witnesses. The rain would wash the road, camouflage his escape. Evie would have to find her own way out. He had told her not to follow him. He had fired at point-blank range. "I don't love you anymore. I feel no passion for you." She was baggage, threadbare, and foolish. Evie took her hand from between her legs and admired the color of her blood. She stood and considered her only clue. She had a description of the woman he was with, but that wasn't much help. The description only told her how different she was from her. It didn't tell her who the woman was. Evie turned her nose in her opposite direction and started walking. In Trauma City, Baby was practicing his line. "I don't know. I don't know." He had thrown Evie away with a clear conscience and no apparent sweat. Then he had disappeared. Disappearance was final because it left unanswerable questions. It made him unaccountable. Evie had an insane, death-defying love for Baby that complicated things, and Baby was a simple man with weird ideas. He was 6 feet of snow, deep and slow to accumulate. In Trauma City, there were no hotels. Baby and Wild Thing checked into a hospital and got a private room at the end of the hall in the geriatrics ward. No TV, no phone. Evie would never find him here. Here he could take his time. Wild Thing was a different kind of cake. She wasn't just fresher and softer. She gave him an intense ease that he hadn't felt with Evie in a long time. Wild Thing wasn't familiar with his demons. When she took him inside, he was alone there. He could enjoy being himself, whoever that was. Baby was plotting so thick, he had lost his point. He knew Evie would be afraid to stop looking for him, but he knew he hadn't given her enough information. She'd never find him here, in a private room, deep inside Wild Thing. No TV, no phone. Evie was tired and shaky when she approached the hospital gates. He hadn't given her enough time. She was empty. Traveling light. She walked up the driveway, into the emergency entrance. She followed the signs through the tunnels to the bank of elevators that would carry her to geriatrics. The walking gave her time to rest, time to think. What would she do now? She could lay down, here in the basement, a few yards from life support and die. Or she could keep walking. What would she do then? She would beg. She told herself not to, but she knew. She would beg. In Trauma City, Baby was getting his thing together. Wild Thing saw to that. When the elevator doors opened, Evie didn't move. A wheelchair babbled incoherently and allowed itself to be pushed into the car. Evie forced a deep breath to propel her forward, over the threshold, into the shiny hall. She didn't ignore the nurses who stared at the soaking wet woman walking in shoes full of tears. She never saw them. She only saw the door at the end of the hall. Baby was just about to come when he felt Evie step off the elevator. He leafed through his guilt quickly and rode Wild Thing to the finish line. "I love you," she moaned. "Me too." Evie was already begging. "Baby, baby, baby, baby," when she walked through the door. The hall had been noisy inside her head. Suddenly, there was breathing. Baby, Wild Thing, and Evie, breathing the same air, catching the same breath. Baby climbed down from the bed. "What are you doing here?" "What are we doing here?" "This has nothing to do with you." Evie looked around the room. The blinds were closed, but the curtains were opened. Streaks of light lay across the bed, folding with the sheets, revealing one soft, bare leg. Evie followed the light up the leg to the hand and waist. She stopped there and raised her gaze up and above Wild Thing. She didn't want to recognize her on the street or behind a counter. She didn't want to start screaming for no reason in some public place. "Baby, please come home. This is home now." "No, it's not." Baby was slow and patient. He knew what Evie was feeling. He always knew. That was why she loved him so much. He tried to be gentle as he took her in his arms. "Yes, Evie, it is." Without letting her go, Baby slipped into his pants, t-shirt, and shoes. He opened the door and led her into the hall. There was too much light now, and Evie could barely see. She was having trouble putting one foot in front of the other. One arm around her shoulder, one across her chest, kissing her forehead, whispering condolences. Baby moved her into the stairwell. In Trauma City, Evie found herself descending, falling. "Baby, please, please, baby, please." After 13 flights, she finally hit bottom in the basement. "Baby, I can't go home without you." Her legs still weren't working, so she leaned against the wall. She had to save her strength for begging. But Baby was tired, too. "Go home." Tired of her. "I can't." Tired of the weight of her love. Baby caught a tear on his bottom lip and disappeared. Evie backed through the tunnels, out through the emergency doors. She studied the gates at the end of the driveway for far too long. At the top, there were spirals of razor wire. She hadn't noticed that coming in.